Welcome back to DepEd Teleturuan. For this time, we will be continuing the discussion on solving quadratic equation by using completing the square method. This method is generally used when the expression ax squared plus bx plus c is not factorable and b is an even number. To solve quadratic equation using this method, apply the following steps. Number 1, we will write the equation in the form x squared plus b over a x equals c over a. Number 2, complete the perfect square trinomial by adding b over 2a quantity squared to both sides of the equation. Number 3, factor the left side and simplify the right side. And then number 4, apply the extracting square root method. Let us apply those steps in finding the roots of the following quadratic equation. Number 1, we have x squared plus 8x minus 20 equals 0. So first is to write the equation in the form x squared plus b over ax equals c over a. And that is x squared plus 8x equals 20. So we have to complete the perfect square trinomial. We will be adding 16 to both sides of the equation. And that is obtained by dividing 8 by 2, that is 4, and getting its square. So we have now x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 36. Expressing x squared plus 8x plus 16 as a square of a binomial, and that is equal to x plus 4 quantity squared equals 36. This time, we will apply extracting square root by extracting the square root of both sides of the equation. Then we have x plus 4 is equal to positive or negative 6. Solving for the values of x, we have x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus 6, and separating this into two equations to get the two roots of the quadratic equation. Then we have x equals negative 4 plus 6, which will result to x equals 2, and on the other hand, x equals negative 4 minus 6 will give us x equals negative 10. Therefore, the roots of the quadratic equation x equals 2 or x equals negative 10. Let us have another example. We have x squared minus 12x plus 6 equals 0. By writing it in the correct expression form, we have x squared minus 12x equals negative 6. By completing the square, we will divide 12 by 2 and getting its square to determine the number to be added to both sides of the equation. And that is 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Getting its square will become 36. So therefore, our quadratic equation will become x squared minus 12x plus 36 equals 30. Factoring the left side of the equation will give us x minus 6 quantity squared equals 30. And extracting the square root of both sides of the equation will give us x minus 6 is equal to positive or negative square root of 30. Simplifying further, we have x equals 6 plus or minus square root of 30. And then, separating it into two equations to solve for the values of x, we have x is equal to 6 plus square root of 30, or x equals 6 minus square root of 30. Now, it's your turn. Find the roots of the quadratic equation x squared minus 10x minus 11 equals 0 by completing the square. Now, okay, let's check your work. In our equation, x squared minus 10x minus 11 equals 0. Writing it in the correct form, x squared minus 10x equals 11. And determining the number to be added by dividing 10 by 2, which is 5, getting its square will become 25. So we have the equation x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 36. Expressing the left side of the equation as a square of binomial, then we have x minus 5 squared equals 36. By extracting the square root, we have x minus 5 equals positive or negative 6. Separating it into two equations to solve for the values of x, we have x equals 5 plus 6, which is 11, and x equals 5 minus 6, which is negative 1. So the roots of the quadratic equation are 11 or negative 1. We are now on the last method of solving quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula. Let us first determine the derivation of the quadratic formula. Now, to derive the quadratic formula, we will solve the quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 using completing the square method. Let us first express the equation in the correct form. We have x squared plus b over a x equals c over a. That is by dividing all terms of the equation by a. Using the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, expressing it in the correct form, that is x squared plus b over ax equals negative c over a. And let us identify the expression to be added to both sides of the equation to complete the perfect square trinomial. So b over 2a quantity squared. And that is x squared plus b over ax plus b squared over 4a squared is equal to negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. Expressing the left side of the equation in a square of binomial, then we have x plus b over 2a quantity squared, and that is equal to combining the two fractions on the right side of the equation, which will become b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. By extracting the square root, we have x plus b over 2a is equal to the positive negative square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. By subtraction property, we have now x is equal to negative b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Combining the two fractions in a single form, therefore x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that is the quadratic formula. Let us now use the quadratic formula to find the roots of the following quadratic equation. We have the first one, x squared plus 8x minus 20 equals 0. In this example, we have to determine the values of a, b, and c and substituting them in our quadratic formula. So we have x is equal to, where b is 8, so we have negative 8 plus or minus square root of b, which is 8. So we have 8 squared minus 4a, where a is 1, and c is negative 20. All over 2a, where a is equal to 1. Therefore, we have x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus 64 plus 80, all over 2. Simplifying the expression, we have x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus square root of 144 all over 2. And that is equal to negative 8 plus or minus 12 all over 2. And separating it into two equations to determine the values of x, we have x is equal to negative 8 plus 12 over 2, and x equals negative 8 minus 12 over 2. Solving the resulting equations, we have x is equal to 4 over 2, which is 2, and then negative 20 over 2, which is negative 10. So therefore, the roots of the quadratic equation, x equals 2 or x equals negative 10. For our next example, let us have 3x squared plus 13x minus 10 equals 0, where a equals 3, b equals 13, and c equals negative 10. Substituting the values of a, b, and c in our quadratic formula, we have x is equal to negative 13 plus or minus square root of 13 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 10 all over 2 times 3. Simplifying the expression, we have negative 13 plus or minus square root of 169 plus 120 all over 6. Simplifying it further, we have x is equal to negative 13 plus or minus square root of 289 all over 6. And getting the square root of 289, we have here now negative 13 plus or minus 17 all over 6. Separating the equation into 2 to determine the values of x, we have x is equal to negative 13 plus 17 all over 6, and x equals negative 13 minus 17 all over 6. Solving each resulting equation, we have 4 over 6, which is equal to 2/3. On the other hand, we have negative 30 over 6 is negative 5. So the roots are x equals 2/3 or x equals negative 5. Now it's your turn. Try this. Find the roots of the quadratic equation x squared minus 10x minus 11 equals 0 by using the quadratic formula. Okay, let's check your work. In our equation, x squared minus 10x minus 11 equals 0, where a is 1, b is negative 10, and c is negative 11. Substituting the values of a, b, and c in our quadratic formula, we have negative of negative 10 plus or minus square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 11 all over 2 times 1. So we have 10 plus or minus square root of 100 plus 44 all over 2. Simplifying it further, we have x is equal to 10 plus or minus square root of 144 all over 2, which will give us the two equations. To solve for the values of x, we have 10 plus 12 all over 2 and 10 minus 12 all over 2. Solving each resulting equation, we have 22 over 2, which is 11, and negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So the roots of the quadratic equation, x equals 11 or x equals negative 1. That's it. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have fun learning experience with me. Again, I am Sir UB or Sir Ubaldo A. Soriano Jr. of Honorato C. Perez Sr. Memorial Science High School. Till next time, God bless.